Hello and welcome to this Philbert Flies review of MK Studio's Keflavik scenery add-on for Microsoft Flight Simulator. You join me on approach to runway 28 and, as ever, I'm starting with an approach to give you a look at the surrounding area and the opportunity to gauge the performance of the add-on on my system. You can find my system specs and current graphics settings in the video description down below. You'll notice one or two stutters here and there during this approach, but by and large the scenery performs very well for me. The way this sim works, those stutters could be gone by the time I next do an approach to Keflavik, so I wouldn't let them put you off. Anyway, I'll let you watch the rest of the approach in peace, and I'll speak to you again when we're parked up at a gate. Then we'll have a good look around the airport together in different weather and lighting conditions, and I'll tell you what I think of it.
Retard. 5.
Welcome to Keflavik. We're parked up on stand 7, and as usual we're going to start by watching the jetway connect to the aircraft. Really nice custom model jetways here with some really nice texturing, accurate adverts, they look pretty good. But will the jetway hood connect to the aircraft correctly or not? Yes, it will. Very nice. Very nice indeed. It doesn't go through the skin. A little bit of a gap around the hood, but by and large this is as close to perfection as it needs to be. Let's move on to having a look at the texturing and modelling of the terminal itself. So I've already talked about the jetways, these look really good, and we have some really nice texture work on the terminal as well. We've got some nice weathered concrete textures and a sea of transparent glass. This is a really interesting airport, it's got a variety of styles of architecture, and I think MK Studios have done a great job of recreating it. I'm particularly fond of these orange and blue tinted panels. With a little bit of dirt around the edge. The dirt is slightly lower resolution than I'd like to see. If you get up close, it doesn't look particularly realistic, but from further away, as you're pulling up, it looks pretty nice. Once again, some really nice texture work here. These breeze block type things look absolutely spot on, really dirty, and some good detail at ground level in the form of these barriers. And the terminal interior looks pretty nice as well in my opinion. We've got some good detail, we've got benches, we've got signage, departure screens, that sort of thing, and the texture work is not the sharpest I've ever seen in a terminal interior, but it is sharp enough that you can read the signs quite easily. I'm also really pleased that the glass maintains its tint from the inside, so other than a few little gaps here and there, you can look out of the windows and see your aircraft, and it looks very realistic. This brick texture looks absolutely fantastic, really sharp, really detailed, and no repeating patterns that I've found so far. MK Studios have included a huge amount of detail in the modelling as well. The roof areas look absolutely fantastic, and we've got some really nice sharp roof textures as well. I'm a particular fan of these dirty marked roof windows which look very lifelike. This red pier, which connects the south gates at which we parked with the main part of the terminal, features opaque window textures instead of transparent glass. While the textures that MK Studios have used look pretty realistic, I do think it's a little bit of a shame, given the amount of effort they've put into the transparent glass and the interior modelling, not to have finished it off and done the pier as well. But it's a small point, and in general, the whole thing looks fantastic. Once again, just have a look at these concrete textures. These are probably among the best I've seen. And here's the main part of the terminal. Once again, no transparent glass here, but some pretty good opaque window textures. I'm less fussed about the lack of transparent glass here because it's not an area of the airport that you're going to be seeing up close and personal when you arrive in an aircraft. MK Studios have done a great job with the peripheral buildings as well. The texture work on these is absolutely fantastic. Really dirty, grubby paintwork, no repeating patterns. They look very realistic and pretty sharp as well. Over on the east apron we have some more good quality buildings which have been nicely modelled and nicely textured. The control tower has been nicely modelled and quite nicely textured, no transparent glass at the top here, and some of the opaque window textures are a little bit blurry. But overall it looks pretty good. It's just a bit of a shame that it's being plonked on top of the satellite imagery rather than having proper ground textures around it. The ground textures that MK Studios have used at Keflavik are a rough approximation of what you'll find at the real airport. So we do have these concrete slabs around stand 7, but you'll also see from the satellite imagery that these same slabs are used around the adjoining stands, and there's no sign of them here. The ground texture that has been used instead is roughly the right colour. It's relatively crisp, we don't have any blurriness when you're taxiing around the airport, but it doesn't really match particularly closely with the real airport. That's not to say it's bad when you're taxiing around it, unless you are a bit of a weirdo who likes to check the satellite imagery before you arrive, like I am. You won't notice anything wrong with it. The ground markings appear to be accurate. The yellows and oranges used around the apron are a little bit bright in my opinion. They're not particularly dirty, so they do stick out a bit more than I would like them to. The same is true of the white lines, to be honest. It all could just do with a little bit of toning down. The grassy areas look okay. You will see some blurry satellite imagery showing through, but that's because the procedural grass is fairly sparse, and short of slapping a blanket green texture over everything, there isn't a huge amount that developers can do about this. I certainly didn't notice it being blurry while I was taxiing in. The 3D taxiway signs are nice and clear and look very good. The runways look really pretty good. Again, much like the apron and taxiway textures, the textures don't match the real airport completely, but they do look very realistic and the markings are all accurate. The landside parts of the airport are nothing to write home about. The building itself looks absolutely fine, the modelling's good, the texturing's okay. Not super detailed, we don't have much in the way of signage or anything else really out the front. We do have some 3D vehicles parked up in the car park, which is nice to see, but unfortunately the default satellite ground texture has been used in place of something more realistic and sharper. MK Studios have modelled a few buildings and structures around the edge of the airport. So we have covered walkways between the terminal and the car parks, we have a fountain, we have some kind of sculpture in the middle of one of the car parks, a hotel, a car rental building, and whatever these things are over here. The quality of these models isn't a patch on the quality of the airport buildings. The texture resolution is fairly low, but still, it's better to have something here than nothing at all. Here's Keflavik Airport by night, and I have to say I'm very impressed indeed with the night lighting. The apron is nicely lit by these floodlights, and the terminal looks fantastic as well. The night lighting's really pretty good inside the terminal as well, which is rare. And what's even rarer is to find an airport where you can look out the windows by night and the view still looks pretty realistic. So yes, what we have here is a terminal that looks great from inside and outside, both day and night. And it's not very often I get to say that. The taxiway and runway lighting looks pretty good too. Having seen how good the transparent glass looks, it almost goes without saying that the opaque window textures are slightly less impressive. Nonetheless, they do give a convincing impression of a terminal building that's lit from within. Here's Keflavik in the rain, and the ground looks very good when it's wet. But we do get the usual popping of transparent glass windows when they should be shrouded in mist. And here's Keflavik in the snow. As you can see, the apron has a thick covering of snow. The yellow ground markings are partially covered and look pretty good. The red ground markings stick out very unnaturally. Across the rest of the airport we see the usual problems that we've come to expect from this sim in snowy weather. Namely, we have sharp transitions between areas that are inexplicably totally free of snow and those that have a snow covering. I'm pleased to report, however, that the runways are clear. So what do I make of MK Studios' Keflavik? Overall, I like it a lot. The quality of the building modelling and texturing is exceptionally high, with all of the buildings that you're likely to get close to in an aircraft looking fantastic. I was hugely impressed with the stained glass and the interior modelling, which adds an extra dimension to the airport's realism. The ground textures are fine, neither remarkably true to life nor particularly unrealistic. They're certainly nice and crisp, which is the main thing, and you're unlikely to notice anything wrong with them during normal operations. The night lighting, however, looks absolutely great. The only real disappointment to me was the snow. I would have thought for an airport in this part of the world, the developer would have pulled out all the stops to make sure it looked good. I know that snow's hard to get right in this sim, but other developers have managed to do a slightly better job with it. But that's really the only significant problem I found with this airport, and overall I would certainly recommend it to anyone looking to operate flights into, out of, or around Iceland. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for more reviews, previews, live streams, tutorials and more. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon here on Philbert Flies. Bye bye.